Hello guys, a very warm welcome to my IT class. We are going through C++ tutorials. In that one we have already started discussion on classes and objects and many concepts we have seen. Now few more concepts related to classes and objects are remained. So among that this is the one, static, non-static concept. You can have a method or member function or data as a static. So you can qualify it as a static. When you are supposed to qualify a data member or method as static, and when you should qualify it as a non-static. That's what we'll discuss in this video. So non-static data or member functions, also we call them as instance variables or member functions. And static we call them as class variables. This terminology should be familiar to you. Like why we call this as a instance operator, Non-static describes the property of an object. Class variables describes the property of entire class. For instance, if you take here the example of account, the account balance, account number, balance and minimum balance, these are what we call, these are attributes of a class. Attributes these are. So among these, how I should qualify, which I should declare it as non-static and which I should declare it as a static. So before we do that, let's see the definition of non-static. Any property, so this is what any property or behavior specific to an object could be described using non-static data or methods, whereas any property common to all the objects or entire class can be described as static. So let's now find here in this given list, account number is every account has, say there are 3 accounts. Is every account has a specific account number? Yes. A2 it is specific, A3 it is specific to it. Okay, what about balance? Balance is also specific to A1, balance is also specific to A2 and this is also A3. But min balance will remain common to all 3 objects. So this min balance, it will remain common to all objects. So what we have as per the definition, if the property is specific to an object, it should be declared as non-static, and if it is common for the all class, we should declare it as a static. So here the min balance will be static. Similar way, let's see circle. In circle, can you guess now what the radius will be? Will it be specific to each circle? Say there are circles C1, C2, C3. For each circle, will it be specific? Yes, it will be specific to each one. But the pi value, that will remain common for all objects. It will be common. Object to object pi value will not change, but object to object radius will change. That's why pi value should be declared or qualified as a static. So you have to declare this as static. And here again, now can you do this in employee? In employee, how it will be? ID is again specific, name is again specific, working hours. Normally you can consider working hours also as a specific. If it depends on the company. If the company, say if any school is there, so 8 hours is common there. If it is a company, industry, there you may be having someone has a 8, someone has 10, someone has 12. So that time work hours will become non-static. But for schools, where it is fixed, everyone has to work for 8 hours, not less than that, not more than that. Everyone has the same thing. So now all employees will have same work hours. That's why we can treat it as a static. These remaining we can treat it as non-static. In case if you go for a company or industry, that time you can declare this as a non-static. So I guess the idea is clear how to decide whether it is a static or non-static. So if it is a non-static, you don't need to say anything. Say balance is there. Say simply you say float balance, then it is non-static. If you want static, then you have to qualify using keyword static. static float balance, min balance. This way you have to declare. Now I'll give you an example here. Before that, I would like to tell you why the concept of static non-static is there. So when the value is common for all objects, why we should store with every object? There will be a wastage of memory. That's why any attribute which will going to have a common value for all objects must be declared as static, and any attribute which will have a specific value, then we must we need to store that property with every object, that should be non-static. Let us see one example here of how we use static non-static in C++. So just go through the example. There is I told you in the last slide, I discussed how the balance is non-static because it is specific to each object. That's why it has to be a non-static. If you don't say anything, by default it will be non-static. So by default it will be there. So you don't need to add anything. So float balance, you said, it means by default it is non-static. Non-static means it is specific to each object. Then static min balance is common for all objects. So what we do now here, we say clearly with the keyword static. When you say keyword static, it will become common for all. Then the static data you can, for manipulating static data, you can use static method. Say here I am setting minimum balance using set min balance. Set min balance is a method function. It is using this I am manipulating. So you can have static data member. Say this is a data member. We call this as a data also, and this is a member function, static member function it is. So this way you can define static method also. Now here init is there. Init is not qualified with anything, so it is by default non-static. Whereas set min val you have qualified it as static, then it will be common for the class. It will not be object specific. It is common for the entire class. Init and display, they are object specific, hence they are non-static. So let's see now here how we do. When you define a class, that time the static variables are not declared, the memory is not given to them. That's why there is a need outside the class, they must be declared like this: float, account, this one, and this is a scope resolution operator you have to use with. This is a scope resolution operator with static data. You have to use scope resolution operator and class name. Static data of a class is accessed with class name. Since it is a specific, it is common to the class, that's why class name is used. Whereas non-static is specific to an object, or object is used. Say here init, in this case here. Why you are using A1? Because init is specific to object, that's why A1. A2 init is specific. But set min balance is not specific to any object. It is common for the class. That's why you are using here class name. This is a class name. Account is a class name you have defined here. You can see this is your class name. The same thing you are using here. Then a1.display, display. This is how static and non-static data members and member functions you have to use. I guess you got an idea. Let me demonstrate with an example program. I'll demonstrate now. Now look here, this is the program which I want to demonstrate here for static and non-static methods both. What we discussed in that last slide, same it is. Now it is a program. There I have just explained you how you can define a class account with balance as a non-static data member and min balance as a static data member. So you can just go through it. There is a public init method that is again non-static, and static min balance, same thing it is. And we have created two objects on a1.init, a2.init. Then Set mean balance. For that we are setting common for all objects. That's why we are using class name. Account set mean balance. And this is the point you are supposed to note. So this is how you need to declare it outside the class. If we declare, because when during the class definition, static variables are not initialized, they are not given memory, so you need an explicit statement for it that you do outside the class. This is how. Then though it is a private, this way we can give outside the class. You will be setting the minimum balance. Whatever value you want to set, you can set it, and then this is how it is. Let's run it and see now. Compile it. So it's compiled now. Let's run it. So it's what it is giving. I just compiled the previous yesterday's program. Let's compile demo G++. It is a demo var .cpp. So this is how it is done. Yeah, now let's run it. Say balance is 5000, mean balance is 100, balance is 7000, mean balance is 100. So now you can notice here the balance is specific to each object. It is varying, it is changing. That's what it is, not static, it is non-static. So that's why we need to qualify balance as non-static. Whereas mean balance, for every object it remains same. It is common for all objects. So you don't need to save it with every object. If you save with every object, there will be wastage of memory. That's what the primary objective in C++ of using static is, to save memory, not save or not store the value for that attribute with every object. That is the purpose. So in a nutshell, what are the takeaways of today's session? Static you must use for data or method which is common for the entire class. Non-static for that data, for that method or behavior which is specific to an object. So hope you enjoyed the session. Thanks for watching.